wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into your world, Jason. Let's begin by doing this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed our lives, changed so many things. How did you get through that era, and how has it influenced the way that you live and work today?
Well, so right before the pandemic, I had already launched my business Goal Crazy, where I was selling these planners, and it impacted me a lot in that my planners were held up just with things getting imported in. The border was really shut down. It's kind of like I had just launched less than a year prior to that, and I was so focused on like I need to sell planners, I need to sell planners, and then COVID happened, and I had this certain amount of inventory in the United States to sell. And it was like, I wanted to make sure I could let that last as long as I needed to. So then it switched my business to what can I be selling people aside from planners and stop putting so much effort into selling these planners and offering other services that could help people set their goals and manage their time. So really, it helped my business. Uh, have a lot more offerings. It helped me grow a lot as a person, but it was extremely stressful during that time.
It certainly was. So you're a pretty diversified business person, and I want to get to the marrow of what you do on a daily basis. And to do that, kids always get the truth out of us. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds in a schoolhouse. It's career day, and the kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
Yeah. So short answer would be I have an e-commerce store and rental properties.
Okay.
If they're looking for a more in-depth answer, I started selling these planners that help people set their goals, and then that turned into workshops and courses and coaching programs. I have a podcast of my own. Most recently, I wrote a book, and then somewhere on the side of that, I started investing in real estate. So I'm up to 34 apartments that I own and manage.
So what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream gig?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a business owner.
Okay.
Now, growing up, though, I thought I would. My family owns car dealerships here. So
Okay.
if you ever come to Akron, Ohio, you'll see my last name, VanDevere, all over. VanDevere, Chevy, Cadillac, Kia, they've got 5 dealerships. So I would have been fourth generation to own and manage those dealerships. So I worked there my whole life. Not my whole life, but growing up, that was just what I did. My dad wanted me to work in every department for about a year, maybe even longer, so I could learn the whole business. So I always wanted to own my own business, and that seemed like the most logical way to do it, right? To inherit this business. But after years of working there, it's just not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And everyone told me it was the craziest idea to leave that opportunity because it aligns a lot with my skill set. My personality type just really did well in the sales environment, but it didn't light the fire inside of me
Yeah.
the same way it did for my dad. So I left and started my business. Basically nothing, struggled for years, but I'm really glad that I did it.
So do people recognize a last name and say, "Okay, wait, are you?" And do
Oh,
they
yeah.
kind of, so how did you separate yourself from that zygote and become you separate from the shadow of the last name being in cars?
Yeah, it was hard. I didn't really expect how much I was going to be reforming my identity when I left the dealership. Because it's like my whole life I've been, if people heard my last name, they'd say, oh, like the car business. And I'd be like, yep, that's my dad. Right. And it was just assumed I'm Jason VanDevere. I'm going to go work at VanDevere Auto. Everybody assumed that. In a way, I felt like this may be egotistical, but it felt like I was a prince almost working there. Right. They've got 400 employees. I'm there. I'm the owner's son. And when I left, it was just strange. Then when people would ask me like, "Oh, are you related to the car business?" Like, "Yeah, that's my dad, but that's not me." And then people at first didn't really have. Some people had good reactions to that. Some people didn't really appreciate my decision to leave the car business or didn't understand it. In a way, COVID helped this because when first started my business, I almost wanted to avoid people because it was hard for me to reconcile that. I was going through an internal battle myself, and then when somebody would see me, it just brought it to the surface. So in a way, COVID almost helped create this separation for me to just focus on growing my business without dealing with that because anybody else that I talk to who lives a couple hours away or on the other side of the country, world, my last name means nothing to them,
Yeah.
which made it just a fresh start rather than me trying to explain this long thought out decision why I turned down what others perceived as like the golden ticket to go become successful.
So my dad was in car sales most of his life, and
Wow, okay.
he did really well. And I remember
Yeah.
when I used to go to work with him, and I was always just blown away because of all the departments and everything, and he orchestrated all this stuff, and his shoes were shiny. He had the suit, and he was just a different guy. It was like he was
Hmm.
Superman. He went in the phone booth and went to work, different from what I knew at home. So
Huh.
I remember one time in particular, somebody said something like, "Hey, are you going to be like your dad one day and do this and sell cars?" And my dad would always stop him and say, and he was an older Italian guy, so it was a part of the humor. He was like, "My son's not going to be a dummy like me. He's going to go to college and get educated." And it always used to break my heart because I was like,
Huh.
"Wait, you're the guy. You're the one that's selling the cars. Everybody loves you." He had this larger than life personality, but his whole point was, "I want you to not live this life of where sales can go up and down. It's just a hard world when you're in that sales
Hmm.
world." And but I never really thought I was going to do it, but I've always had that imprint of his effect and what a good car salesman can do and how they can spin that yarn really well.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, if you show up at one of the dealerships, you'll know if he's there because you'll hear him. He's
Yeah,
loud, he's excited. It's just the business is an extension of himself, and he's done
yeah,
a great job building into this business with values. And uh, in growing up, that was inspiring for me, similar to your dad, right? It's like I saw that and it's like, I want that. Like,
yep,
I want a business that I've got a fire inside of me to
yep,
just make it happen. And it's just this joy. But working there, it became so obvious to me. It's like, I don't have that same fire. I'm
yeah.
not going to find that same thing working here. And that strangely, seeing his passion for the business gave me the courage to say, I'm going to go out and find that for myself.
Totally. So, who's been your hero? Who's been an inspirational force that's allowed you to not only split and find your own world, your own path, but in general to evolve and to evolve as a human and as a business person?
Yeah, my dad has been a huge mentor of mine. When I told him to leave the car dealership, that was a hard conversation, and I still think secretly he is hoping I'm going to come back one day. But he's been extremely supportive of what I wanted to do. I would say a role model for me that's been a lot of inspiration. I've never met this individual, but my great grandpa, his name was Rudy. He grew up super poor. His mom died when he was like 9 or something. He ran away when he was 13, hitchhiked to another city, couldn't get a job because he was 13 years old. So he just went to a construction site and started working until eventually they hired him. But he ended up becoming extremely successful. He owned airports. He bought the car dealership. So he's the one who started this car dealership legacy that my family has lived by. But it's like, because of the work that he put in, it has affected generations of our
Yeah,
family. My great grandpa bought these dealerships. They were passed down to my grandpa. They've now been passed down to my dad and my uncle. And they're probably now going to get passed down to some of my uncle's kids. But it's like, it just has been this inspiration. He went out and carved his own path, and it helped me realize it's like me going out and starting this business. Yes, it's going to make an impact on my life, but this can make an impact on generations to come, right? My life, my kids' lives have already been impacted because of my great grandpa Rudy, who I never even met. And it just helps me get outside of myself a little bit. It's like I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing this for the generations that are going to come and hopefully be impacted by the good decisions I can make here.
so, if you had a dream tonight, you had just enough time in that cosmic subconscious world of dreamland to ask him a few questions. What would be the burning questions you would want to know?
Yeah, probably what was the fire inside of him that led him to do it? Because that appeared to take a lot of courage. I feel like for me, I've been able to find what lights that fire inside of me. I would say that, and ask him how he got through it. So this is interesting. We're having this conversation. So growing up, I've always like thought of Rudy as like he was. We still quote like what great grandpa Rudy did. Like he's just passed down. I mean, generational wealth is great, but he's passed down generational habits. And constantly my family's like, well, Rudy said to do this, or Rudy always said. And but recently my grandparents showed me a recording of him. Somebody recorded him telling stories before he died. And it's like, really, is he's telling the stories of his life? Most of them are just struggles. It's like
Yeah,
hearing the stories, like, all right, this is the story of a guy who appears to have bad luck, just tons of challenges. Things are constantly going wrong, but he had this ridiculous persistence to figure it out
yeah.
and keep pursuing what he really wanted. So I'd want to know what was the fire inside of you that gave you the courage to make it happen. And in a way that was inspiring to see because I thought like, oh man, I'm 30. You know, Rudy was probably crushing it by the time he was my age. And it's like, nope. Rudy was sleeping on the floor of a airport hangar because he didn't have enough money to put gas in his car and drive home to his family and still get to work the next day. It's like that was inspiring for me to hear. So what was the fire?
You know, it's interesting that you do have that recording because I remember my dad passed in '08. He was only 64, but I went through all of his stuff. My role was to find all of the pictures and all of anything that I could archive and present and whatnot. So I found all these little mini cassette tapes in his side drawer, and I'm like, huh, what's
Yeah.
this? And I click it, and he said he started with being born in Brooklyn in 1944, and he left
Hmm.
his life story behind because he was spooked by
Wow.
a death that he had a friend of his had passed like 3 or 4 years before. So we got his life story. So when you can get those, and
Hmm.
as you very well know in this modern era, to be able to incubate those stories and to be able to save that family history, it's huge because you would have never known that about him. You would just think
Hmm.
flowers, roses, unicorns, rainbows. He did really well, but like when you get down to the brass tacks, and probably
Hmm.
at the time, I don't know what years it was, but they had to go through the depression and wars and all of that. It was a different
Hmm.
era to thrive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a whole different era. Nowadays, nobody can sleep at the concrete floor of the
Right.
garage they work in. Like, it's not allowed, right? But that's just how people lived. It's
Yeah.
like if you didn't have enough money to drive home and get back the next day, just sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you could meet an entrepreneur or a brilliant business mind that's alive right now today and spend some time with them, have a lunch, talk to them a little bit that might help you on your path, who would you meet and talk to?
So now I would say somebody who's where I want to be. One of my mentors told me, he's like, look, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So whenever you want to do something, find someone who's already done it
Yeah.
and just ask them how they did it.
Yeah.
Boom, there's your straight line. So right now, I had my book come out. About a month ago, and I'd been doing coaching for years before that. I shut it all down to write this book, and now I'm trying to regrow this coaching program on the back end of my book. So, somebody that I really admire who's done that, used their book to position this coaching program, is someone named Chandler Bolt. He's grown like a $10 million a year business on the back end of a book that he grew. So, that would mostly would be just for selfish reasons of like, he is on the other end of the straight line that I want
Yeah.
to live out.
So when you left that meeting with your dad and decided that that wasn't going to be the path that you were going to do, you clearly had a dream of your life. You had dreams of igniting that fire and making that dream come to life. What is the difference between the day you walked away from that meeting, going in as an entrepreneur, and what's happened right now? What's the difference between the dream
Mhm.
and how it's transpired?
Yeah. I thought that I would leave the car business and become super successful in a few months. And luckily, praise God, that's not what happened. I had to struggle for a long time. And in a way that was so good. I wouldn't want to have to do it again, but it matured me a lot, right? I was this young 23-year-old kid, and I had a lot of reckless behaviors and habits. And if my business would have clicked right out of the gate, if I just had more money injected into the young Jason's life, it would have taken my reckless behavior just more through the roof. So by struggling there, I think I've matured a lot. It's kind of like starting this business fully challenged me. I couldn't go out and drink with my friends and spend a bunch of money at the bars anymore. It's like that would get in the way of me growing my business. I would feel terrible for another day as I had to sleep and catch back up. I had to start getting healthier. I had to have a firm schedule. I needed to form better habits. I started going to church because I finally had something that I truly needed to pray for. I guess I've always had things to pray for, but it was very apparent just in my face. I needed help with this business. So, from where I'm at now, I think I've just grown a lot as a person because of that struggle.
So what is the motivation every day for you to wake up to do this work that you do? It's very multi-tiered. You have to do it at a high level, but you have a family and you have your own soul to take care of. What is that collective energy for you every day to get up when that alarm clock goes off and do it?
Yeah. So I'm gonna say there's two things. One, now that I'm married, I have three kids. Well, we have three kids. My wife, she stays at home and works with the kids. So I need to provide. That is the driving force for me. Not just that I want to provide for them, but I truly believe being the father to my kids is going to be the greatest thing I'll ever do with my life. So I want to make sure I'm doing that right. And for me to have a career that can provide us the lifestyle we want, that's a big thing, being able to provide for them. But I would say the when I'm at work, what really drives me is helping other entrepreneurs get started on this adventure. It's like I was super nervous taking the leap into working for myself. But I know that I'm so glad that I did it and I stuck through the challenging times. And what gets me excited is helping somebody do that, but really helping somebody find what's the business that's going to light the fire inside of them. That's kind of the whole concept of my book, Dream Driven. It's you need to find something that's not just like, here's the business that's going to earn you a whole bunch of really quick money. It's like, no, what do you want to do with your life? And what's going to light the fire inside of you and give you the courage to make that happen? Because if I can help somebody do that, I think the rest is just going to take care of itself. That's kind of the first domino that'll tip it all over. They'll have the drive, the courage, the motivation to push through the challenges, to push through the fears, to push through the hard times, to create the success they want if they find that burning desire in their heart.
So let's say you have a dream tonight, run into the 18-year-old version of you, trying to figure out what that fire is, what you're going to do exactly. And you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the professional decisions you've made, wisdom you've gained. What advice would you impart?
Yeah, keep dreaming.
Yeah,
Keep dreaming. I think your dreams define your life. And let me just real quickly separate what I mean by dreams versus a goal.
yeah.
So we're all familiar with the concept of goals, right? Like goals are something clear, they're specific, they're something you actually want to do with your life. Dreams, on the other hand, when I'm dreaming, I'm just asking myself, what would I love to do? What would I love to experience? They do not have to be realistic. They don't have to be things that I'll necessarily do. I'm just letting my heart speak to me about what's the life I would love to live. But once I can have dreams, then I can set goals that aim at making those dreams happen, right? My dreams are what gives my goals meaning because you could set goals without dreams. You can set goals, but they won't be aiming at anything bigger than themselves, right? When you have dreams, your goals have purpose and it gives you purpose. If you don't have dreams, your goals don't have meaning, and then you end up in what I call survival mode, where you're just working to stay afloat. And I'll tell you, when I was working at the dealership, that was the state I was in, survival mode. I had clear goals for how I was going to succeed in each one of these departments my dad was putting me in, but they weren't attached to a dream of mine. So there was no fire, there was no purpose. But once I started to clarify this is the dream I really wanted, then I could start setting goals that aligned with it. And it gave me the fire, it gave me the purpose inside of me. So if I could go back to young Jason, keep dreaming, dream every single day. And if you dream about going out and getting drunk with your friends, your life is going to look like that. If you dream about growing a business of your own, your life is going to look like that. If you don't dream about anything, you're going to end up in survival mode, right? But your dreams are going to define your life. So start dreaming, get clear on what you
Absolutely.
want.
For sure. So let me ask you this. If you were to walk into a room of everybody that knows you in a business sense, whether from the car dealer days or from your days of doing your own thing, and you walk through that group of people and you could go to the podium and tell them one fun story, maybe a great trip you were on, climbing a mountain, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a bear, first concert you ever saw, what would be a fun story you could tell that room?
Fun story that could tell that room, something to inspire them, something to make them laugh,
Yeah, yeah, it would humanize you a little bit to them.
would humanize. So let's think of a story that I haven't shared with you yet already. Real estate. Probably really helpful lesson that I went through when I was starting my business was getting others' feedback on what I was going to do. So when I left the dealership to design this planner, I spent months interviewing successful people. I needed to figure out how they're setting their goals, tracking their goals, and I made this the framework for this planner I made. And thank God that one of them recommended, Jason, you got to host a focus group to take people through this design to make sure it works. And at the time, I thought that was just a silly idea. Like, why am I going to do that? But out of respect to the person, I hosted this focus group. I got six people together. It was scheduled to be an hour, and we were going to go through the whole design. And we ended up staying there for 3 hours.
Wow.
And we didn't even make it through the whole design. People had problems with basically every page. This doesn't make sense. This is too much writing. I don't get what I'm supposed to do here. This is repetitive. And I remember getting back into my car after that, just crushed. Like all the negative feedback I was getting, the whole time I wanted to argue with everybody, but I couldn't. Like I invited them here to share their feedback and they were. But I was embarrassed. It's like I just left the car dealership. I'm telling everybody I'm going to make this planner. Now I'm embarrassed of the planner that I just passed out. And I think that was one of the moments where I really had to decide, like, how badly do I want this?
Yeah.
Uh, but then it just became so clear to me. It was like, well, here's this list of things I need to change with my planner design, and it'll be better. Right? I'd rather have gotten this knowledge up front when I can change it and improve it rather than launching the product and then getting in the form of negative reviews and my business and my product fail. So I ended up posting 7 of those focus groups until eventually it just worked. Uh, People were using it. It was clear. They were getting results. But yeah, that'd be maybe
That's a
one of the
great
stories
story.
at least that just
Yeah.
comes to mind right
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a great story. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done in your life up to this point, accomplished and evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got an amazing wife and we have the cutest kids. Uh, Strangely though, and I remember the night before I was gonna propose to my wife, I remember thinking if I did not struggle with my business for years, she would have never been attracted to me. Like I was just completely on a different track for my life of immaturity, selfishness, but that those 2 years, give or take, of struggle, they formed me in a completely different way. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of her. Yeah, I'm proud of her and our kids.
So let's take that a step further. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that you work with, everyone that gets your book, everyone that listens to the podcast, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think dreamer for sure. That's definitely become a personality trait. Uh, I feel like I'm a dreamer. I think one of the biggest things I can bring to other people is just I believe in them. And that becomes from I believed in myself enough to make this business happen. Now I feel like if I see somebody who has a dream, I believe in them because I've been able to do it even when I thought I couldn't. I can believe in them. And I think lots of times my belief in someone else is high enough that they can start believing in themselves. And I feel like that's a strength that I can now offer to other people.
So if anybody wants to get dream driven, they want to tune in to your show, they want to reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah. So my book, Dream Driven, it's on Amazon right now. That's the only place it's listed. And that business that helps somebody figure out their perfect business idea, validate it's a winner, and then get it launched, even if they are on a budget. If they want my planner is called Goal Crazy, not Go Crazy, Goal Crazy, GOAL. They can also find that on Amazon, or my website is goalcrazy.com. They can find my planner there. They can find my podcast there, which is also called Goal Crazy. But I would say if somebody who's listening to this connects with the idea of wanting to find a dream driven business, one, the book is going to walk them through that process. But I have a free course that they can take advantage of at my website, goalcrazy.com/idea. It'll take them through a short course that'll help them find that dream business idea, the one that'll light a fire inside of them to push through the challenges and make it happen.
Cool. I will put that link in the show notes. Jason, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Continued success with everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been
Cool.
fun.
Absolutely. Thank you.